Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
The NFC North, the Vikings, the skull.
Yeah.
Right, they have the whole thing. The whole sky.
The horn, the horn too they have in Minnesota.
But we got a team in here. And this is like intent. Now every time I beer, we gotta score.
Hey. Come on, Judd.
If he's not the first person,
he's awesome.
If he's not the first person, honestly, week 1, and we're just getting news now that fans are going to be back in stadiums here. Hopefully, God willing, in 6
for the Gallahorn. You want him for the Gallahorn?
I want him week 1 for the Gallahorn.
Oh man,
1 baby.
Be super fun. I'm all out of breath now.
Yeah,
just out of shape.
He's probably in good shape.
Oh, those quads.
That's the McAfee thing. He's probably in really good shape.
His for the brand. I believe that's his moniker, for the brand, for the punter legs and special teams.
He also was like he jumped into WWE's NXT and was like doing moonsaults off the top rope. It's like first ever match.
Yeah.
Like what?
Moonsault.
Amazing. So this is 4-Question Friday on Purple Daily. Mackie, Judd, Declan, and I think it's going to be mostly a free agent-centric edition of 4-Question Friday, boys. I'm legitimately like out of breath from doing that.
You're right there.
Yeah,
easy, man.
You saw it looked easy. That's why I didn't get up from my chair.
Yeah.
Too much physical exertion.
A lot of energy right now because I didn't get up from my chair. Another swig of caffeine. Okay.
So while I try to get my heart rate down under 200 here, let's talk about Federated Mutual Insurance Company. As a business owner, how helpful would it be for you to have employee training at your fingertips? Industry resources that can help your business reach another level of success. Well, that's why Federated recently launched My Shield, the online client destination for risk management resources. Federatedinsurance.com, click on My Shield, or download the app. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. So, boys, question number 1 for you. Who is the one guy, and I'm going to go trade, free agency, or draft. Who is the one guy you're most interested in adding to the Vikings roster in the next 2 months? You can only pick one. Realistic answers only.
Oh, dang, I was about to say.
So,
we got to be realistic.
So, like Deshaun Watson, we're going to say that ship has sailed. Russ Wilson, like realistic, assuming Kirk Cousins is your quarterback, unless you want to draft, let's say, Trey Lance, who the Vikings were scouting today. So via trade, free agency, or draft, who's the one guy that you're like, okay, that's the realistic thing that needs to happen?
Okay, I have now pivoted to being all in on the potential rebuild, both short and long term, of the offensive line. And so I'm going to stay there, and I'm going to give you a guy that we've been talking about because I think it sets up the dominoes to fall to give you a really good offensive line for the foreseeable future. I'm going to go with the trade route of Orlando Brown Jr., who very much wants out of Baltimore, who would give you potentially a very solid left tackle for a long time. You would pair him as a bookend with Brian O'Neill at right tackle. Both would be highly paid and would get paid after this season, which is absolutely fine. But it's realistic to do it because the salary cap short term in 2021 would not hurt you and therefore would cause the trickle down of allowing you to sign a left guard to put by Brown that now would give you, your line would go from being basically a series of at least 3 question marks to 1 question mark potentially in Garrett Bradbury at center, but the left side of your line would be strengthened, which I think would help Bradbury out as well. So I'm going with the Orlando Brown trade because that puts me in position to sign a left guard and take a bit of a cap hit there. Orlando Brown Jr.
Dex?
For me, I'm going with Alabama wide receiver Devontae Smith.
Wow.
I want to go 3 deep, baby. I want to bring this back. I really think it could be a lot of fun. I think you can find your guard in free agency. And I don't know if that's Joe Thuney, but I think you're going to find an upgrade. It's similar to me to what the Wild did with their goaltending. They weren't asking Cam Talbot to be a Vezina guy. Can you get a league average goaltender in here to help stabilize things? And then maybe one of our rookies rises up and even outperforms the veteran we signed. Instead, get the dynamic wide receiver in Devontae Smith, go 3 deep. And I haven't even mentioned Irv Smith and Dalvin Cook. Like, you're talking about 5 weapons on offense in Justin Jefferson, Thielen, Smith, Cook, and everyone else. So I would say go get Devontae Smith with your first-round pick.
So how are you going to feel then, scheme-wise, next year when they draft Devontae Smith, and in week 2, down by 7 late in the fourth quarter, and they've got Thielen and Jefferson running routes, and Tyler Conklin and CJ Ham also running routes with Devontae Smith on the bench because we don't really run 3 receivers. It's our scheme.
Oh, you know what? Clint Kubiak, you're fired.
If I see a fullback wheel route on 3rd and 8 in the goal line, on 3rd and 8 in the red zone, I'm going to lose my mind. Okay, for God's sake, stop. CJ Ham, love him, love me some fullbacks, but
Ran it real well.
Jeez, my God,
But it's been a staple of Vikings offenses for 15 years, man. Going back to Naufahu Tahi. Glorious time.
Stop. But I love the idea. I just am so focused right now on getting this O-line right. I'm so tired of it not being right.
I am too, and that's why I think it's pie in the sky because they still have to clear a ton of cap space to even be in the conversation. But Joe Thuney just seems like such a perfect solution. Now, I get that he's, 29, 30 years old, and so would I be a little bit more interested in Orlando Brown, different position, but Orlando Brown's age and having him and Brian O'Neill as 25-year-olds lined up and under contract, that's interesting. So I'm definitely with Judd on that concept. But if there's one guy that I'm the most interested in fixing an immediate problem, it's just getting one of the top 5 or 10 left guards to replace the worst left guard. And let's see how that improves Garrett Bradbury. But to make that happen, you probably still need to clear at least 10 million more in cap space, probably more like 15 million. Cause if there's things you can do, you could push more of his cap hits into 2000, like bigger signing bonus, spread that signing bonus out into 22, 23, et cetera. But you still got to sign a first round pick with your cap. You still have to sign maybe a linebacker if you get rid of Anthony Barr. And so you got work to do, but he would be mine for sure.
The next tier of guards, though, is not terrible. Like,
it's not.
Zeitler would be absolutely, it would be an enormous, I mean, I don't think we appreciate how bad Dakota Dozier was. Like, he's on the ground floor.
Yeah.
And you might not be able to.
I appreciate
he's in the basement, and you might not be able to afford the penthouse, but you can still get 27 stories up.
Yeah, we just needed to get to the living room. You know, we don't even need the penthouse.
Like, I just want a view. I don't need it to be a penthouse view, but I want a view. I don't want to be in the basement.
It's a fair point. All right, question number 2 here on this 4-question Friday. Mm-hmm. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you trust Rick Spielman over the next 2 months?
Oh,
free agency and draft.
Here's my problem. I don't think that he's involved in a line of thinking that actually is accurate, which means you're looking at the future. There have been different times where I actually do trust him more than this, but right now, because the pressure is going to be so heavy and enormous to win, and because I think they're going to make some short-term moves that I'm not sure, just as we speak right now, so things have not been done yet, I'm at about a 4. I'm not that high because everyone's job is on the line. And when that happens, bad decisions and snap judgments are made. And so I am very concerned. And he's being influenced by a head coach who I don't think cares as much about the offense as he probably should. I'm going to put it at a 4. It's definitely been higher at times, but right now I have serious concerns.
I'm probably on a scale of 1 to 10 at a 7. I've usually given Spielman the benefit of the doubt on most things. He has found gems late in the rounds of the draft. He's been aggressive before, showing he can trade up. And look, anyone who obtains about 10 7th-round picks every draft, I mean, my God, sign me up, right? I still am leaning towards that. I trust him to make the right decision, but I will say this is the most important offseason he's ever entered and the most important stamp to put on this Vikings team, because if he does not hit it in 2021, I think we're talking about finally the Vikings moving on from the Spielman Zimmer era.
Yeah. All right. So Judd's a 4, Dex, you're a 7. I'm a 6. I'm a 6, and I'll tell you why. And that's probably higher than a lot of people. I'd be curious to know listeners and viewers of this show, give us your number. How high are you on, or how much do you trust Rick Spielman? Throw it in the comment section. The reason I'm a little more confident than not is because he is aggressive and he is not afraid to make big moves, splash moves. He's not afraid to trade first-round picks, second-round picks, whatever. Doesn't always work out. Obviously, the Unique Ngakoue trade was a disaster last year. But step one to making some drastic changes to this team and making the moves that you need to get this thing on the right tracks is you have to be aggressive and willing to do things. The Packers aren't, right? Like, when's the last time the Packers made a big splash move with a first-round pick or traded a veteran? They just don't make splash moves. And so the Vikings, sometimes those splash moves hurt them, sometimes they don't. And so I think Rick's going to get splashy. I think he's going to try and do some big things, and it just remains to be seen what will his batting average be on those splash moves.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a ton of faith right now because partially the QB who I like but don't love. And I think Rick is going to make moves that we're going to look back on in a few years and say short term, which is why if he addresses the offensive line accurately, at least that's a good start.
So that's a good segue, actually, to question number 3 here. Is this a fair criticism of the Vikings front office from our friend Minnesota Twins guy on Twitter? I'm just going to read you the tweet that he sent into the show. The Riley Reiff situation screams terrible process. Strong arm him into a pay cut on an impulse move for Unique Ngakoue, who's traded 6 weeks later. Don't move Reiff at the deadline when you had a chance buried 5 games below 500 for a mid-round pick. And then you pay an extra bonus out of good faith that counts against the 2021 cap, $1 million, I believe. Classy move and fine, but then why cut him after you give him the $1 million because you felt bad? Is it a fair criticism to say that the Vikings have no idea what they're doing with this Riley Reiff situation?
Now, I'm sorry, who does that come from again?
Minnesota Twins guy on Twitter.
Okay, Minnesota Twins guy, you are so spot on. It frightens me. Yes, it is. In fact, I will pile on his moves with one that he doesn't have, which is where the process and the breakdown starts. Okay? I've been told that they were really convinced Danielle Hunter was going to be absolutely fine and that they had Ngakoue because they thought, man, bookends, pass rushing ends, Ev's gone, who cares, right? So like the process was we can get this guy Ngakoue and pay him more and strong and as the person said, Minnesota Twins guy, strong arm Reiff, but we can do it because we've got Danielle on the left side and Ngakoue on the right side. Not being aware that Danielle Hunter might end up having neck surgery, like where's the breakdown in that thought process from he'll be back in a couple weeks to, oh, I guess he's going to have to go under the knife now for a back neck problem. And then at the end, I love the old, well, honey, I cheated on you about 18 times, but here's some flowers. So I'm sure you'll take me back now. She's like, yeah, I don't really think I'm going to take you back. Can't blame her. Right. Yes. The Vikings often, and this is a problem, I think with Rick and with Mike, especially, they often think that they're far cuter and smarter than they really are. Giving Riley Reiff $1 million, which I'm sorry, I know to the three of us and to our listeners is a ton of money, but giving Riley Reiff that after you've totally screwed him out of at least $5, if not $6 million is like if a person gave us $1 or $10 or something. We'd be like, okay, great, thank you. Yes, Minnesota Twins guy, 1,000% right. And the final, oh, please take our gesture, just to me indicates how dumb Vikings management thinks its players are, and ultimately really the fans too. Like, we'll believe this. No.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I just think the whole thing, they were a step behind the whole thing, right? And then, unless I'm missing something, they miscalculated. They thought, oh, we'll float $1 million bonus to him because we felt bad about him missing out on his incentive bonus for having to sit out because of COVID protocol. And because we're going to do that, he'll for sure restructure and play nice and lower his cap hit and then sign a 2-year contract. Well, they literally miscalculated every step of the last year with Riley Reiff. So, Dex, are you in agreement or disagreement with us?
No, I'm with you guys. They totally screwed him over, to be completely honest. And he's coming off, maybe like Courtney Cronin said earlier with us today, that I think they really just botched the entire situation. They asked him to take a pay cut. Yannick Ngakoue comes here, and then you'd flip him 6 weeks later. I mean, my God. So I can completely understand if I'm Riley Reiff, and even with NFL teams, maybe being a little bit more frugal at the same time, if you're not going to pay me what you agreed with me on, then I'm just going to go out in the open market and file my contracts. And I completely understand if I'm Riley Reiff, I want nothing to do with this. And to be honest, we've heard similar things from other offensive linemen who have also contributed to this show, that sometimes there's not really some good faith there with how they handle that line.
Yeah, Alex Boone was. I'm assuming that's who you're referencing. I think he hasn't fully publicly documented what happened behind the scenes, but it didn't end well between him.
It didn't end well. No, just in general, with those two, it did not end well. I miss my guy Alex Boone.
Yeah, I did too. He's I think he's still making a run at it for 2000. We'd love to get him back on the show at some point. Well, he played for the Seahawks. He was on their practice squad for the last couple weeks in the playoffs. Okay. But I don't believe. I think he's just back home in Eden Prairie right now. So, and that brings us to question number 4 on this 4-question Friday. Congratulations, everyone who made it to question number 4 here. Will Kirk Cousins still be the Vikings starting quarterback 1 year from today?
All right. I am going to go out on a limb, or not, I guess. I'm going to say he's not going to be, and here's why. The contract, the pressure that exists. I am not positive that a year from today, Zimmer and or Spielman will be employed by the Vikings. If they're gone, I think a new regime, which would be far more of an offensive-minded one, certainly not a defensive coach, because you always hire the opposite of what you just had, would look to move on from Kirk. I think if Kirk would go then to San Francisco and restructure, that might work. There's a lot of variables that have to go right for Kirk to be back. I don't know that they're all going to, and I don't know that I trust the principal players involved to guide this to a point where they do go right. So I'm going to say a year from today, we might be talking about an entirely different administration and a different quarterback.
See, it's interesting you asked this question now, because in 1 week we'll figure out if he's still on the roster on the 3rd day of the league year or so, and his 2022 salary is guaranteed. And it basically, I mean, if his 2022 salary is guaranteed and he's not moved by the 3rd day of that league year, I mean, how the hell do you move him? How do you move him this time next year? With so much more even dead money against the dead cap. So I would say he's here. If he's not moved by that 3rd day of the league year, 1 week from now, yeah, it looks like he'll be your quarterback in 2021 and 2022.
I think the way that you would move him in a year from now is, all right, there's a huge contract on the horizon for 2022. So any team that trades for him would essentially want to work out like a 1-year extension or something. So you'd smooth it out so that his cap hit would be $35 million, and then you would get a bunch of guaranteed money for 2023. So, because I think that's what the 2022 $45 million cap hit has signified the whole time. It's like it signifies another renegotiation, right? I don't think it was ever meant for him to play on that number unless he decides, hey, I just want to hit free agency.
He's saying I'm good here, but if he gets, but if there's a deal worked out, let's say again, San Francisco, right? I think he'd be willing to restructure and extend there.
Yeah.
So he very well might tell the Vikings, hey, I'm good. And the Vikings say, yeah, but we can, put you with Shanahan in San Francisco, unite you two there. And he might say, I'll redo my contract then. But I don't have the faith that the entire thing is going to work out to where it's all smooth and Kirk comes back and Zim comes back and Spielman comes back. That just feels to me like a long shot right now.
Yeah. You know what? Because this is Kirk Cousins Appreciation Week, my answer is going to be a resounding yes, he will still be the Viking starting quarterback as they go for a 2nd consecutive Super Bowl championship headed into 2022 because old Kirky boy pulled out the 4th quarter clutch magic, Mr. Game-winning drive down the stretch in the playoffs. And that's a 4-question Friday here on Mackie and Judd's Purple Daily. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we're just sort of going to be on call the next few days and all throughout next week as news breaks. Last year on the Friday before free agency, and some of you might be listening or watching, maybe news has already broken, but the Friday before free agency last year, the Vikings cut Xavier Rhodes. Was it Linval Joseph? So we're in the window where things could happen with Danielle Hunter or with Anthony Barr or other players. and we'll see what happens. So we are your daily stop for daily Vikings entertainment here. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you could give us a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple, that would be awesome as well. So thank you for being part of our community. Our mission here is for the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we all die. And they have chances to take some steps forward as free agency opens up here in the near term. So we'll see you next time on Purple Daily.